Hi moms, if you're looking to sell your engagement jewelry, Worthy is the perfect option. With over 45,000 satisfied customers, Worthy is the most trusted name in the business. Would I bring you anything less? Worthy offers competitive auctions and gets you the best deal possible on your jewelry. Plus, I've connected with Worthy on a special bonus offer for the Moms Moving On community. A $100 Amazon gift card when your jewelry sells for over $1,500. Ready to move on from that engagement ring? Get started today at worthy.com/moms. That's worthy.com/moms for the special bonus offer.
I was here in Miami by myself with Dylan and my ex-husband. And so I had to really create a village, one, and two, in the village that I did have friends that, friends that become family, I didn't want to burden them with
Oh my God.
what was my shit.
Welcome back to another Moms Moving On. I have a really inspiring mom on with us today, and I'm so excited to be chatting with her. She's not just a fellow Miami mom, but she's a really badass, successful one at that. We have Ayana Rodriguez on with us today, and she is the founder of the ITAVI method, a childcare program that can be booked while on vacation. The award-winning childcare service allows parents traveling with toddlers and kids of all ages to find a trusted and reliable childcare solution while on vacation. Hello, that's brilliant, because I don't know about you guys, but my chat is always blowing up with, hey, does anybody know a sitter in Asheville? And I'm like, no. Ayana, thank you so much for being here.
Hi, thank you so much for the warm introduction and for having me here today.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I know this has been like a long time in the making.
Yeah.
But, despite your success with such a brilliant concept, I know that there's a divorce story underneath this all. So why don't you just start by introducing yourself and how you got started in this line of work, and then we'll get to the heavy stuff.
Okay, so as you mentioned, ITAVI, which stands for It Takes a Village. It's the acronym for It
Oh my
Takes a
God, I
Village.
love that.
And the whole thought and feeling and mission is that it really does take a village in raising children. And, we have gone through different iterations of this, not ITAVI itself, but in our society, when you think about it, how we started, how childcare and community, or you lived in a family where, especially in Miami or back in the day, where you had moms and aunts and it was your village. And then as women started entering the workforce and moving out, we've really changed. That landscape has changed a lot, as families don't tend to live close to one another anymore. And so our village becomes our community. And then, that can be a little bit challenging to navigate as you don't know, or your neighbors, or, so we are determined, and our mission to really bring that back to childcare, because it truly does take a village in raising a child. We cannot do it alone. And we need to make sure everybody feels, as moms, that we're comfortable and know how to identify who our village is in child rearing. And that's important. And not just in child rearing, but identify who your village is, who can help you be better as well along the journey. So ITAVI, and we partner with wonderful hotels throughout Miami, and we're scaling. So we're at Fontainebleau, one hotel. We do family activations at St. Regis. So we have some tremendous partners, Aquilina. And so, in entering this market, just a little bit, as a mom, I have 3 children, and always identified it was a challenge. If you do go somewhere, how do you know who you can leave your child with if you want to go out or you have an event? And usually, you ask a friend and a friend of a friend, and or the concierge, and you just have to, that's like going with your gut instinct, because you really don't have any understanding of the landscape. So it's almost like rolling the dice, right? And because you're desperate, you need childcare, you have to go to this event, or you want to go out. And, or you don't want to bring your kids to dinner because, you know, when you bring your kids to dinner when they're little, it's the same thing, just
It's
in
a
a
hot
different
mess.
locale.
Right. Yeah.
Stop, leave your sister alone. Stop, you know, eat your
Yeah.
food, you know, all of those things. So, you know, we have really been determined to adjust the approach and the intentions to childcare and what the landscape looks like and make it easier, not easier because parents have to still take ownership, but understand how to navigate it in a better way. And, you know, through our process, through our vetting process, which we do, we have childcare professionals. I want to make sure we understand the difference between childcare professionals and a babysitter. Back to that village when you lived in the community and you would have the neighbor come in and watch your child, that's a babysitter, right? Childcare professional, somebody who has experience. We have a lot of teachers on, registered nurses. They're already in the care field or childcare market. And we just really want to provide them tools and resources to be better at what they do.
Right.
The ability for mobility, because,
Uh-huh.
you know, these 99.1% of them are women. And, you know, they do care about taking care of other people's children and they're good at it. However, it's an industry that's really been underrepresented, as I know you know and can understand. And we want to give them support, mobility, and the ability to be better at what they do best, taking care of children, and providing experience for those children that we get to spend time with.
That's amazing. And I love the concepts because, you know, the name It Takes a Village kind of like it brings up so much for me because I remember as a younger mom going through a divorce when my daughter was 2, I was kind of like, where is that village? Because I didn't feel like I could find it as easily as I could have when I was married. And that's really hard. And so having this option, I feel like, you know, you mentioned also being in Miami, being Latina, that like for myself too, like I've got my mom, I've got aunts, I've got a whole bunch of people that I could call if I need help. But a lot of people find that when they are divorcing, their parents or their family members do not necessarily agree with their choice to divorce. And so they feel like cut short on their village. What was that? Was that an
Mm-hmm.
experience you could relate to or?
Yes, in a lot of ways. And my situation, Michelle, was a little bit different is that I didn't even have a village here. My family, I didn't have any family in Miami when I divorced. So I've married twice. And my first marriage, where in a product of my son, Dylan, who's now 20, and knocking on the door because he just landed from Boston.
Oh.
It never ends.
Yeah.
um, so, you know, I was here in Miami by myself with Dylan and my ex-husband. And so I had to really create a village, one, and two, in the village that I did have friends that, you know, friends that become family, I didn't want to burden them with
Oh my
what
God.
was my shit. Can
Yeah,
I use that word?
of course.
I didn't want to, you know, nobody wants to hear all the time, oh, you know, it gets time for, I was tired of hearing myself. So I was like,
I, yep,
stop,
same. I had this
Ayana.
same issue. And I remember thinking like, I need to complain. It's going to make me feel better, but how much can these people actually take from me?
Right. Before you isolate the little village that you do have.
Right. I know it's such a double-edged sword for real. Um, so you
So, yeah. So
how,
sorry. Go ahead.
no, that's okay. So you got divorced you had one child and then you
Mhm.
moved on to your second husband and had two more babies.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Amazing.
So a total of three, a boy who's 20, as I mentioned, a 13 and 8-year old. So I have the spread, quite the spread, but it's wonderful. And so with my second husband, he didn't have children prior. He was married prior, but no children. And we a beautiful family, you know. And it's so interesting because there's a few things about divorce and children, which I'm sure I've had experienced this as well. Is, you know, when I don't know if they still do it. I think they do, where you're mandatory have to take a course when you're a
Yeah.
parent
The
and you're
parenting
getting
class.
divorced.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And your child has to attend too.
Oh, I didn't have that.
My son had to go to a class about divorce, and we waited for him outside, and he was 5 or 6 at the time.
My
And
goodness.
it was a class at Miami-Dade College. They had space there. And he was in this classroom and they talked about divorce to these little kids. And I was like, that's kind of strange, but I don't know, maybe it's supportive. I'm in my own head at the time, and it was mandatory, so we had to go. And I remember just, my takeaway when I got home with Dylan from that, I said, Dylan, I'm glad you went. He's 5. He's probably like 6. I want you to understand that this situation that's happening is not for you to claim and become a victim of.
Oh, I love that.
Do not use it as a crutch in life of why you do not do what you need to do in this life.
Mm-hmm.
Because so often, I'm a product of divorce as well. My parents were divorced and it was super messy and
Same.
really trauma.
Uh-huh.
And I love my parents, it was just difficult. And so, with that experience, I knew going through it, you don't want to repeat certain cycles, that
Right.
are really scarring as a child. So I said this to him because I find so often when you hear these stories, oh, well, my parents got divorced and then that's when things went, even in my case, things went kind of
Things went
sideways,
crazy.
upside down. And I was like, I get it because it is so disruptive, but it's your perspective and how you attach to it with your children that will determine the outcome and how they choose to attach to it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Absolutely.
so I really took that to heart, and I'm sure I messed up along the way. He could probably tell, has a book on the that he would list out.
Yeah, same.
However, that was just one way where I really wanted to implement that thought and that process for us very early in this divorce.
Good for you. And so I know you're remarried, and as am I, and people always ask, like, how did you know, when it was time to start dating after divorce? How did you know you were ready? You had a little kid, you didn't have, the quote unquote village that you were used to when you were around your family. Like, what was that like for you?
That's a really interesting question, Michelle, because I don't think I ever gave it any thought. I'm one of these people where I live life and I work on this still to be present. So dating and here's what I believe. I don't know. You fell in love once, you will fall in love again.
Yeah, agree. Hard agree.
You will find it. If you are open to it and you don't start, oh, I'm not finding anybody, I'm not finding anybody. Well, guess what? You're not going to find anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so for
But was there
me,
was there like a healing process for you?
yes, yes. And I healed also a healing process of time. It wasn't very long. Some people are like, oh, you should have waited longer. But now I've been with my current husband for 18 years. So it's,
Seems like it worked
um,
out.
yeah, yeah. I mean, we have a track record. So there was time and there was a lot of reflection and there's a lot of growing up that you have to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
For your own benefit and your own acknowledgement so you don't repeat some of the same things that maybe went wrong. And sometimes you still do. And you just have to kind of be like, okay, that sounds and looks familiar. So how do I readjust? Because I know what that outcome is going to bring me. It's not even
Right.
about your partner. How's that going to bring, where is that going to bring me? How's that going to help me?
Right.
So, there was time and there was just this kind of fluid to like, let me just see what happens. And believe me, it was bumpy because, divorce is scarring, you know, there's a lot you go through,
Oh yeah.
from emotional, you know, confidence. You question, are you a good parent? Can you be a good parent? Am I all of these things
Will
that,
my kids hate
I'm
me?
telling. Yeah, yeah, right. right? Am I really messing them up? How do I do this? I mean, and there's so many books, and and you're such a great resource to people. So I applaud you and thank you for sharing that and going down that journey and really giving insight for people who are in it or healing from it, or know that there's an opportunity to understand a different perspective on
Mhm.
how to approach it, right? Because that's what you're offering. You're offering perspective. And that's what life is about. You can change your perspective. You just have to want to know you want to change it, and that there's an alternative perspective out there to adopt.
Perspective is powerful. And I think once you understand, really that we all have a lens, we're all going to see
Mhm.
things differently. And when it comes to divorce, we're going to see things very differently. Our story is going to be very different than that of our ex-spouse. And what I find keeps so many people stuck is this idea that they have to get the other person's perspective to be the same as their own. They need that closure. They need that person to say, okay, you were right, I was wrong. Where, my mentality is like, who cares? You're entitled to your perspective. They're entitled to theirs. Let's move forward from that. Because when we're stuck on worrying about what somebody else thinks or says, or their idea of what went wrong in the relationship, we're holding ourselves back, and it just does us all a disservice. Okay.
Absolutely. You're so right on that.
So tell me, did you start this amazing business like way after divorce, or was it something that you were like, okay, I'm getting divorced, I need to kick my ass into gear here and bring in the money?
So, you talked about perspective. I have had many different iterations of what is today. When I got divorced, I had a children's store, boutique, and that was really, I couldn't do a divorce and landscaping a mom and running a store. So something had to give at the time, and it was a store, right?
Mhm.
And that was a choice. That was a conscious choice. Also, the economy, so there was some factors where I took the ingredients and said, you know what, Ayana, something's going to slip.
So you left the workplace force, you closed your store to be able to focus on, life after divorce and being a mom and being more present. Now you have a new business and a new marriage and 3 kids. How do you think you find balance? Is there balance for you in all of this?
That is, there is balance because you find it. And you know what I find balance is? It's in the experiences that you choose to create for your family and for
Mm-hmm.
yourself. And that's the only way. It's like anything else in life. If you want it, you have to create it. I learned that not too long ago. I turned 50 this year, and I was all these years before, I was like, I was waiting for somebody or something to kind of make the spark for me to
Right.
create it. And I was like, you know what? No one's going to do it for you. If you want to have fun, you have to create your own fun. If you want, you have to do it, and that's just life, which is great because then it's what you wanted. Um,
Absolutely.
so the so the balance is a choice to create. There's nothing else, there's no other way to do it. So you consciously say, this is my balance moment. This is where I'm going to find my balance, because nobody's going to give it to you. Everybody takes, but that's their job to take. You have to put on the brakes. You have to say, I need this for Michelle. I need this for Ayana.
So it's setting boundaries where you find that balance. I know for me, that's a huge thing. It was learning to say no and mean it and honor myself and find the self-compassion to do that. And it was really rooted in boundaries. Would you say it's the same for you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. But that takes experience to learn that it's okay to have boundaries. And
Yeah, it
boundaries are
takes
great
forever
when
to
you're
learn that.
creating. Yeah, yeah. And in a business and everything you do, and I think those are all experiences and learning processes that help you as a person, a mom, a woman, to really create, where you want to be professionally, what kind of parent you want to be, what kind of partner you want to be, what kind of friend you want to be. We're pulled in so many different directions, and all of these experiences help us to be that much better.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. So where can our listeners learn more about the ITAVI business, and how can they get in touch with you if they have questions or just want to connect with you further?
So the best way to find ITAVI, our services, is through ITAVIkids.com. And through ITAVIkids.com, you can book our service. It's very seamless. Our intake form is located there. And we follow up with every inquiry with a personalized call, because that's part of our process of how we define trust. We put a face with the process. We put a voice with the process. So you know that there's resolve, where you're not in a queue, you're not waiting for an email to be returned. And I believe that for us, that's trust. Knowing that you have somebody there to support and help you resolve when you need resolve.
Girl, don't we need it? I love to hear it. Thank you. For those of you who are listening, where can everybody get in touch with you if they have more questions or just want to like know your general fabulousness?
That's wonderful. So you can email me directly at Ayana@itavikids.com, Ayana at itavikids.com, or Instagram. Now these days everybody's accessible. I love it. So DMs on itavikids.com or on Instagram, and I respond very quickly. That's another skill set that I hold true and value.
Amazing. I love to hear it. We will link all of that. Ayana, it was so great to get to know you. Thank you for sharing your story with us. And for everybody listening, we'll see you next time on Moms Moving On.